Welcome in, Shield Brothers and Shield Maidens, to Shield's Rest. I'm Brown.
And I'm Fry.
Thank you for joining us. Today in this video, we're going to be covering maneuvers and techniques specifically. As we talk through those, we'll also showcase you what some of those are, and we're going to use the Foundry virtual tabletop that we've recently started using to show you those maneuvers and techniques, just to give a little bit of a different layout than the playtest rules. But for now, we'll jump into maneuvers first, and I'll let Fry talk to that.
Yeah, so maneuvers are martial abilities that you're going to gain through what's called the martial mastery feature. This is a feature that comes with every martial class. Some subclasses are going to have them too, so some of those spellcasters will have a martial focus when they'll get it, and then taking certain talents will also give you access to these maneuvers. And maneuvers are used as part of your attack action. So whenever you make an attack, you can spend additional action points or stamina points, depending on what it is, to do these maneuvers. And you can use multiple maneuvers with attack as long as you have the action points and or the stamina points to spare.
With the attack maneuvers, these are used to modify damage, range, or targets of your martial attacks. You have to choose which maneuver you're using before you actually declare the attack. So it is a part of the attack. You can't decide later that you wanted to add that in. There also might be instances of a save being required as a part of that attack maneuver. For example, imposing a condition, then the target would need to make a save respective to what that condition might be.
All right, and then next up we have grapple maneuvers. So these are performed on creatures that you already have grappled. So they're not going to grapple them for you once you already have them. When you choose to have one, it's going to be an athletics check by your character versus that target's martial check, so they can choose athletics or acrobatics. If they lose, they are subject to whatever that effect and or damage is, depending on the check. But even if they win the check, they do remain grappled. So it's not like a super risky. If you already have it, you're not going to like break that grapple and lose them.
And then we have defensive maneuvers, which are used to protect your allies. Also could be used as a reaction to either attacks, spells, or contested checks. If you use a reaction, then you have to make that decision before the GM announces the result of the check. And we'll get into some examples of each of these maneuvers as we get to the end of this portion.
Right. And then to wrap up the maneuvers, you have the weapon maneuvers. So each martial weapon or weapon style has like a maneuver associated with it. Each weapon also has an always active and or passive ability that's going to come with it as well. And that's kind of the four maneuver types kind of wrapped up into one. With the weapon maneuvers, they will kind of change up once you get further into the playtest. Like Mark was saying earlier, we have that 0.8 beta swapped up a little bit for the open playtest rules. That's kind of how they function now.
Yeah, and then we'll jump over to this quick just infographic that we came up with to kind of show specifically the differences between the playtest rules and the 0.8 rules. So as you can see there, I guess the biggest difference are that weapon category in the playtest rules gets replaced, differently in the rules, and with that there are some added maneuvers into saves and attacks. So once the 0.8 rules come out for official release for everybody to see, you can look at those differences for yourself. Now we'll jump over into the Foundry so that we can actually show you what some of those maneuvers are. We have here a tester. It's just a giant born fighter that I've created. Also within Foundry, we're using a module, which I'll put the link in the description below, but it just helps lay this out in a little quicker way. So if we go to, for example, the Great Axe that this character has, you can see two different maneuvers here. So a power attack and a sweep attack. We're not going to talk about those specifically, though. I do want to look at some of the other ones that they do have here under techniques. So the one that we really wanted to talk about here was extend attack. Your melee attack range is increased by 1 space, or your range attack is increased by 5 spaces to make an attack check. So you basically can declare that you're going to attack a target and then use an additional action point to add extend attack to give you that extra reach as a part of your attack. That way you don't have to move close to the target, things of that nature. One of the defense maneuvers I wanted to talk about is protect. You can see here that since it's a reaction, it requires something to happen that triggers it. So the trigger for this one is that a creature you can see within one space is hit by an attack against its PD or physical defense. That reaction is used, this allows the target to take half of the damage, and then you would take the other half of the damage. The damage that you would take bypasses any kind of reduction you may have from a shield. What I wanted to show you as well from the grapple maneuver is body block. So again, this has a trigger. When you are targeted by an attack, as a reaction, you can reposition a creature grappled by you to shield yourself from the damage. So you and that creature both take half damage dealt, and you can move the grappled creature to any space adjacent to you immediately afterwards. While you have a creature grappled, you can perform this grapple maneuver by making an athletics check contested by the target's martial check, as Fry covered. Contest success, the target is subjected to the maneuver's damage or effect. If the contest of the grapple fails, then the target suffers no additional effects but remains grappled by you. And then lastly, we have the weapon maneuvers, which I wanted to show chain style here. Your attacks ignore shields and half cover, and you deal +1 damage against targets that are wielding a shield or behind half cover.
Yeah, chain style I think was like my favorite to read through, because I feel like that's the class fantasy of like anything that's like whipped or anything is to like grab the shields or weapons.
Yep, absolutely.
Don't really see a lot of mechanics on it, so
yeah, I've been actually dying to make a character that uses a whip as their predominant weapon, and I think the system's the perfect way to do that, but more to come on that in the future. Next, we'll jump over into techniques.
Yep. So techniques are special abilities for marshals. Kind of equate them to like almost spell-like level, more advanced kind of maneuvers. So there's currently only one list that all marshals and like hybrid classes and stuff will share in the playtest. I expect this to change in the beta and future iterations of the game, where each class will kind of get its own tailored list. But there's currently 10 techniques available. They're going to cost a combination of AP and SP. So where maneuvers was one or the other, this one's going to take both. Starting at level 1, most classes are going to have access to 0, and by the time they hit 10th, they're going to have access to 5 of them. The only exception to this is going to be fighters, where they're going to get 1 at first level, and then they're going to follow the same kind of trend. So they're just going to have 6 by the time they hit 10th level. And then you can also take a talent called the Martial Expansion, and this is going to give you 2 additional techniques. So currently you can get almost all of them once you get to 10th level, but again, I expect that to change once the beta kind of hits. And then if a technique involves an attack check, you can still spend more AP and SP to use maneuvers and weapon passives and all that, provided you have the necessary AP and SP to spend.
Yeah, we'll say too, the martial expansion, we forgot to mention it in maneuvers. That talent is very good. You can look it over, but it actually gives 2 techniques, 2 maneuvers, and an additional SP, as well as like proficiency in all armors and shields. And so very good talent, especially if you're going to be playing a martial class, but definitely check that out. There's another thing as well called technique enhancements. So similar to the way that you add a maneuver into an attack, you can add a technique enhancement to your technique, which just makes it a little stronger. And there's different options we'll show you here in just a minute. But for example, you can spend additional SP on top of the required AP and SP combination to actually use the technique. You can flavor in more SP if you have it to increase the damage, the duration, the range, number of targets, make it an area of effect. These enhancements are specific to the technique you're using. It's not like a generalized enhancement system. And if it, again, same thing applies. If it involves an attack check, you have to announce that you're doing this before rolling. And you can only use 1 enhancement per technique unless it states otherwise. We'll jump over into the Foundry again to show you an example of a technique, which I'm going to show you forbearance. So over here in Foundry, we're back to our tester character here. You can see techniques. They have this one, which is forbearance. So what this does, it has a trigger. So whenever a creature you can see within one space is targeted by an attack that targets its physical defense, you can use a reaction to activate forbearance by spending 1 AP and 1 SP to become the target of that check. And you may choose to switch places with that target if you're willing. Dynamic attack saves apply here as well. For example, with forbearance, when we talk about technique enhancements, there are 3 that you could choose. So the first one here is steadfast forbearance. If there are multiple creatures within a space of you targeted by the same check, you can protect them as well. You just have to spend an additional SP per target. And then you would take the collective damage. So if there's 2 targets being attacked, you burn an additional SP to protect both of them. You take the damage they would both take. So if they're taking 4 each, you take 8, for example. Another type of enhancement for forbearance would be to gain resistance to all damage taken, or technique master. Once per combat, you could perform a technique and reduce its SP by 1. So this would be a quick on the fly way to use forbearance if you're maybe low on SP.
Nice, lot packaged into one.
Yeah,
one technique.
For sure. But that's a quick video for maneuvers and techniques that we wanted to show you. We do want to let you know to expect that our next video will kind of conclude the Mastering the Essentials series. However, we are going to start another series, and we're going to do character building, and we're going to try to do that in a fun way where we do a couple different flavored characters that you can create in the DC20 system. So we appreciate you guys watching. Love your support. We're still astounded by reaching our goal of 100 subscribers, and we've even gone beyond that, which is crazy. We hope that you check out our holiday one-shot as well. That's going to be releasing on the 20th of December around lunchtime is what you can expect. And until next time, keep the shield wall strong.
Take care.